breathing quiet, sentiment, Dharma friend, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Amoga. Vairocana Mahamudra. Mani Padme Jvala Pravartaya. Please stand. So in keeping with our tradition, we will first take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha in Sino-Korean. So just throw your voice in with the sound, even if you're not sure of the words of the chant. And then we'll do it again a second time in English. Shim,
Chemang Chale Sanju Ilshe Sangaya
I go for refuge to the Buddha
I go for refuge to the Buddha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please sit comfortably. So for our service this morning, we'll have a little bit special component here at the beginning, which Haju Sunam will explain. I forgot a part. Haju reminded me that recently we've been doing land acknowledgement. Can you hear?
A little bit of floppy shirt today.
How's that? Better? Okay. So recently at the temple, a group of members have been sort of doing some research into the history of our land. And so we've been kind of sharing a little bit of that as an acknowledgement of where we are sitting here today. So in the spirit of healing, I acknowledge that our temple sits on the ancestral homelands of the people of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Ottawa, as well as the Anishinaabe, Menominee, Miami, and Ho-Chunk nations. And more recently, our temple building at 1214 Packard, the big yellow house, and the original building that stood here at 951 Woodlawn, as well as many other homes along Woodlawn, were part of a vibrant Black community here in Ann Arbor. And our original temple building was actually home to a doctor at one point and was a boarding house. And when Haju sent me some of this information, she wrote, "When we bought the building in 1982, it had been uninhabited for several years. We had our first yard sale by putting out the contents of the buildings, including 6 large jukeboxes." So here we are, still listening to the music.
Testing, testing, testing. Good morning, and welcome in from the 10 directions. This morning, we are going to have, I think, the last of our continuing precept ceremony. We've been having people who have formally become Buddhists. That's what the precept ceremony is about. And starting actually year before this one with what we call the Pa family. And we, this past year, these folks came together on a regular basis to study each of the precepts and to do some chanting of the refuges and to complete 3,000 prostrations over time. And two of them, while they received the precepts on Zoom, have not had a chance to be in front of community. And being in front of community, just like a marriage ceremony, is very special because what you are taking on is witnessed by the community. And it's special for you, too, the person who is doing this in the ceremony, to it makes it more important to just have people. I know when I do my little ceremony with my New Year's resolutions, it was always much more helpful if I would tell my teacher what I had vowed to do. So when we share our vows and our commitments, it helps us to become more accountable to them and them to be very precious to us. Yeah. So we have two people, the last two people in the Pa family, at least for this year. And I would like to invite them to come up here, Kadipa and Kababa. They don't get to see each other very much, so this is really special. So we'll start with just a little bit of offering from the special certificate which each of them received. And I'm asking both of you to listen deeply. Let it penetrate to the very marrow of your Buddha nature. Buddhism, the way of the Buddhist. Buddhism teaches gentleness, compassion, serenity, wisdom, love of nature, and realization of the true nature of all beings. Buddhism prevails where these values are upheld and practiced. Therefore, cultivate your body, mind, and speech through your Buddhist practice of prostrations, meditation, chanting, and sutra reading, so that you will become a living instrument for the Dharma, the teachings. Cultivation of your body, mind, and speech will, without fail, lead you to the realization of the three jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The outward meaning, the obvious meaning, and the secret meaning. That is, on Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, peace, love, and kindness. Your body mind is the Buddha Dharma. Your environment is the way. Walk and light the way and cultivate the Buddha field for all beings. Ultimately, there is no suffering, no sorrow, and no death. Be diligent. Do not neglect cultivation of the way of the Buddha. Attain freedom for the happiness of all beings and the piece is over. Now, here are the precepts which these two studied together with the other members of the family. I'm going to read them aloud, and after each one, I'll ask these two to say, will they endeavor to fully keep these precepts? And your answer will be, yes, I will, hopefully. And the rest of you can join in too, because some of you are maybe renewing your precepts and maybe hearing them for the first time and thinking, this is a value which really resonates with me. So you can join in if you wish to. The 8 precepts. Number 1, I resolve to abstain from doing harm, but to cherish all life.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Number 2, I resolve to abstain from taking what is not given, but to respect the things of others.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Number 3, I resolve to abstain from lying, but to speak the truth.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Number 4, I resolve, I got the order mixed up. I resolve to abstain from engaging in sexual misconduct, but to practice purity of mind and self-restraint.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
You're good, eh? Number 5, I resolve to abstain from partaking in the production and trading of firearms and chemical poisons, but to keep my mind calm and clear.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Number 6, I resolve to abstain from wasting, but to conserve energy and natural resources.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Number 7, I resolve to abstain from harboring enmity against the wrongs of others, but to promote peace and justice through non-violent means.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
And the 8th, I resolve to abstain from clinging to things that belong to me, but to practice generosity and the joy of sharing.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Let's each of you come separately. First, Pablo. Please repeat after me. I am fully aware
I am fully aware
of the Buddhist path which I am going to undertake.
of the Buddhist path which I am going to undertake.
It is with respect and gratitude
It is with respect and gratitude
that I have taken the 3 refuges
that I have taken the 3 refuges
and recited the 8 precepts,
and recited the 8 precepts,
and I embrace the teachings of Buddhism.
and I embrace the teachings of Buddhism.
Michael Anthony Hilton was born June 18, 1989 at Ypsilanti, Michigan, USA. True? Good. Mindful of these 3 refuges and 8 precepts which you have taken, I offer them to you, first given by Venerable Duan Sunim at a special ceremony on the 4th of July. Were you on the screen for that one?
I was on Zoom. Yes.
Yeah. So first, Michael Anthony Hilton received his precepts then, and then now I am taking over for Venerable Duan Sunim to offer you the Buddhist name Pabava. Say it?
Pabava.
Abava means strength.
Mm.
It's a good one, eh? It also it means strength, maybe not so much as this kind of strength, but a kind of heart, deep heart, devotional kind of strength. Yeah. Do you relate to that?
I do.
Wonderful. Okay, so here is your, in case anybody forgets, because sometimes it's a good idea to wear it around so people can get used to your new name. Everybody knows your street name, but now you're getting this Buddhist name. And your certificate. And these. Good. And it's a good idea to keep the certificate and even the beads close by so that you can look at them regularly and go out having remembered. All right, so let's. Your brother, your friend, Pabava.
Baba.
Welcome to the Sangha. Sangha members are happy, when you do such a thing. Okay. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Besides on screen. Yes.
Yeah, I think I've never been face to face. That's a welcome. And to your husband, just come
Right
to-
there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nice sometimes. The family members come, everybody, a special kind of next celebration in life. You might get married and you might get this and that, but to do this, and it's really special. Please repeat after me. I'm fully aware
I am fully aware
of the Buddhist path
of the Buddhist path
which I am going to undertake.
which I am going to undertake.
Is that true?
It is true.
It is with respect and gratitude
It is with respect and gratitude
that I have taken the 3 refuges
that I have taken the 3 refuges
and 8 precepts
and 8 precepts this morning,
and will embrace the teachings of Buddhism.
and will embrace the teachings of Buddhism.
Laura Joan George was born September 8th, 1962 at Bethesda, Maryland, USA. Is that true?
That is true.
Mindful of the 3 refuges and 8 precepts which she has recited this morning and chanted, I humbly offer through Duan Sunam and all those of the Buddhist Society of Compassionate Wisdom, the Buddhist name Padipa. It means, say Padipa,
Padipa.
and it means lamp.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a beautiful name. So this is given to you first. Were you on the Zoom on the 4th of
I
July?
was.
Yeah. So this is for the second time. And we have every day is a good day to renew the precepts. And we also have special ceremony every year. So come back and do it again. Yeah. So congratulations, Padipa. Here's your certificate. And Padipa. You can experiment if you're going to call your good wife Padipa. It means lamb. That's pretty serious. And then these lovely beads. They've been made in the villages and small towns by individual families in Korea, and they're cedar.
Uh-huh.
They're very special. Yeah.
Thank you.
And let's make bow to Sangha members. you. You may return. So now I'd like to just wait for them to get settled again.
Sorry.
I would like to ask Jogwa, our newest Dharma teacher, to give our talk on the Sangha Jewel today. You want me to do that?
Can you hear okay? Good morning, everyone. My name is Jagwa. Street name is Kelly. So I'll answer to either one. So there's a line in our scripture, The Way of the Bodhisattva, which you can read in our liturgy book. And it goes, "May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse, till all sick beings in the world are healed." And the doctor and the medicine and the nurse is sort of a metaphor for the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, which we took refuge in at the beginning of our service this morning. And that at every Buddhist service, there's some taking of refuge. And so for the theme for this first part of our services, we've been giving talks on those three jewels. So Maum has spoken about Buddha jewel and the Dharma jewel already. And so I'm here to talk about the third one. What is it all about? I think I had read, it might have been Suzuki Roshi, perhaps, who wrote a little bit about that metaphor of the doctor and the medicine and the nurse. And so I believe his sort of take on it was that the Buddha is like the doctor, kind of, making this diagnosis about this human condition that we're all experiencing. The Dharma, the teachings, are sort of the medicine. How do we work with the suffering? How do we experience greater joy and interconnection? And then he equated the Sangha to the nurse, the group of folks who are really kind of part of this team of helping take care of each other, taking care of ostensibly us, I guess, the patients. And so that's kind of always stuck with me. And I had that in mind a little bit as I was thinking about what I wanted to say about the Sangha jewel. When I first started coming to the temple, and I would tell my coworkers that I was going on a meditation retreat or something like that for the weekend, almost to a person they would say, "That sounds so relaxing. So jealous. I'm so happy for you. The temple must be such a peaceful place." And it is. However, if you've ever done a meditation retreat, you'll know that it's not necessarily like going to the spa. We get up very early in the morning. We do a lot of prostrations and meditation, and there's like a rigor about it. And so sort of kind of expanding our capabilities as people. And so maybe we have this idea that being part of a spiritual community is just about kind of, feeling a little more relaxed. And maybe that is part of it. Or maybe we have this vision of a spiritual seeker being sort of the person who removes themselves from society to seek that sense of ease or peace. Because being in the midst of daily responsibilities, jobs, family, and chaos can be really stressful. And I admit that, especially during the early days of the pandemic when we were all on lockdown, I was kind of looking for some comfort in reading some poems by a man from the 1200s who was a Buddhist monk and kind of a hermit who lived in the mountains of China. And so I did want to share one of his poems. His translated name is Stonehouse. I built a thatched hut deep in the clouds. I find enough joy in what life brings. I bury a few potatoes before the fire dies. I'm done with schemes, but not with writing letters. Clear and still as ice, I transcend the bounds of time. Open and full of light, I encompass the 10 directions. But events outside my hut are a mystery to me. Like how many times have flowers fallen and bloomed again? And so, as someone who grew up as an only child and who is an introvert, I'm really kind of like, I'm really drawn to that notion of just removing myself and being somewhere really cozy and safe and peaceful. But the reality is that most spiritual practitioners in Buddhism are part of a community, whether you are a monastic living in community in a monastery, or part of our lay community practicing here at the temple or at a similar place. And so really what I wanted to talk about today is some of the sort of historical basis for this community. How did this Sangha of Buddhist practitioners come about? And what are some of the elements of that tradition that we still carry forward today? How do we work with each other in community? Because those of us who have families or roommates or any kind of situation at work or school, we know that living in community is not just about getting along. It's not just about always being friends all the time. There's some aspect of positive friction that's happening. And so I want to talk about that aspect of community a little bit too. Okay, so I'll start just kind of sharing a little bit about some of the historical precedent for Sangha. Where does this notion of the third of the three jewels comes from, and why is it sort of the third leg of that tripod stool that's so important to remain in balance? So, as you heard from Maum's talk a few weeks ago, the Buddha was a man who lived in northern India about 2,500 years ago. And he wasn't the only spiritual teacher at that time. In fact, he, as part of his path, kind of took up with different spiritual communities along the way, trying to learn from them and really trying to answer that question that he had in his mind of like, what is the nature of this human experience? Why is there suffering? And what do we do about it? So he had studied with a couple of different teachers. And then when he became a teacher himself after experiencing his own awakening, the first folks that formed his Sangha were some of the fellow seekers who had been kind of practicing with him. And they had tried all these different methods. They had tried sort of many really challenging ascetic practices. I was just at the Detroit Institute of Art yesterday, and there's a Buddhist art section that you may have seen. And there was a beautiful sculpture of the Buddha, very small, and one that you don't necessarily see depicted. We often see him kind of post-awakening or enlightenment. But it was him kind of sitting in like a kind of a scribe's pose with his legs crossed, and you could see his ribs and his back because it was from his sort of pre-awakening aesthetic period when he was taking in very little food. And so he had a handful of other folks with him who they had really been trying to figure this out. You know, what is this question that's driving us? And so those were some of the first people that formed his Sangha. And as he started sharing some of the teachings that he had absorbed and digested with others, they joined up. And I wanted to share a little bit of historical context because it was somewhat unusual at that time to have a community like this where it was not organized around existing social class. So we know today that India has a caste system, and that existed in some form at that time too. And so I wanted to read a little bit about this. I thought it was really interesting. So 2,500 years ago, when the Buddha was enlightened, a community that included monks and nuns, laymen and laywomen of all castes formed around him. A hereditary caste system based on occupation and skin color was already in place by the Buddha's time. It has since evolved into a complex and hierarchical social system of graded inequality. At the top of the pyramid are the Brahmins or priests. Buddha himself was born into the warrior caste. Below them is a merchant and agricultural caste, the Vaishyas. The Sudras were laborers and servants. And below them were the untouchables, more recently called Dalits, meaning in Hindi and Marathi, people broken or ground up in the wheels of oppression. The Buddha's egalitarian vision included them all, but position and nobility were evaluated on the basis of ethical action and understanding. In the Sutta Nipata, the Buddha says, one is not an outcast by birth, nor by birth is one a Brahmin. By action, one becomes an outcast. By action, one becomes a Brahmin. And I think it would be quite right to say that it was a pretty radical vision at that time to sort of discard this existing social system of enforcing who was the most worthy and sort of what you were capable of in life. And so I think it's important to sort of bring a little bit of that historical context into the conversation of what a Buddhist Sangha means. They were breaking a lot of rules in a sense. And not just that, but also with the inclusion of female practitioners, especially at that time. Most women would have had the responsibilities of raising children and being in the home, and to leave your family and go and become a nun. That could be a big source of shame for your family. It wasn't like there was necessarily people lining up to say like, yeah, let us know you're really interested in this Buddhism thing, like go check it out and no problem. It was a big deal to leave. And in a sense, it was a big deal to have a community of practitioners that kind of spanned all of those genders and social classes. So that's a little bit of sort of the context. So how did this community function, right? So if they weren't relying on sort of existing social norms of caste or maybe gender roles, how did they organize themselves? And so I was reading through some different sutras, and I wanted to share just a couple of stories from those that were some of my favorites. But maybe I'll just start with kind of one little anecdote. So in the Thich Nhat Hanh tradition, he's a Vietnamese Zen teacher. They still have, and I'm not sure if they do this in other monastic communities. It's quite likely that they do, but this particular example comes from his community. Anytime the Sangha assembles to conduct formal business, there is a ritual. So the facilitator will ask, is there harmony in the community? And the community will respond either yes or no. And if there isn't harmony, they don't proceed with whatever that official kind of business is. And this is a ritual, very simple, that goes back to some of the earliest days of the Buddhist Sangha, sort of really acting as one body. And so how does the early Buddhist Sangha kind of think about harmony and how did they organize themselves to try to create conditions for harmony. Over time, a very specific set of guidelines did emerge called the Vinaya. And this eventually came to be hundreds of guidelines or rules about how monastics live and conduct themselves. But I wanted to kind of before, I'm not going to get into that so much, maybe just one particular part of the Vinaya that I particularly find charming as a layperson. I wanted to share just a couple of examples from scriptures that I think kind of show what are the values that are informing this notion of how a society or a community can function in harmony. All right, so here's the first one. So this particular passage is where the Buddha is teaching about So here the Buddha is teaching about how do we conduct ourselves here in our spiritual community, and he's comparing that to other groups of people that his practitioners might encounter out in the world. It's a really long list. I'm going to say there are 44 guidelines. I'm only going to read some of them. The Blessed One said, "Now, Kunda," this is one of his disciples, "here effacement should be practiced by you." So effacement, sort of abstaining. "Others will inflict harm. We shall not inflict harm here. Effacement should be practiced thus. Others will destroy light. We shall abstain from the destruction of light here. Others will take what is not given. We shall abstain from taking what is not given here. Others will speak falsehood. We shall abstain from false speech here. Others will speak divisively. We shall abstain from divisive speech here. Others will speak harshly. We shall abstain from harsh speech here. Others will indulge in idle chatter. We shall abstain from idle chatter here. And it goes on. Others will be covetous. Others will have ill will, be of wrong view, of wrong intention, of wrong speech, of wrong action, of wrong livelihood, of wrong effort. They shall be overcome by dullness and drowsiness. We shall be free from dullness and drowsiness here. So on and for, as I said, 44 guidelines. What I really love about the Buddha as a teacher is that his ability to kind of enumerate human qualities with such precision, I think is so instructive. I could not have sat down to make a list of 44 things that I should kind of, avoid doing if I wanted to be in harmony with others. But here we have a pretty good list. So you can hear in this early teaching the echoes in the precepts that our folks recited this morning, right? So some of these are sort of moral guidelines, guidelines about how we conduct ourselves in speech and action, how we relate to other people. And I think I originally read this during the 2016 election. And really was grappling with what does that mean to encounter some of these qualities out in the world that are so challenging to interact with, and how do we practice here? So I think that is maybe what I take from this in the here and now. And then just one other brief story from the sutras. Haji reminded me of this one the other day, and it's also in this book, which is the Buddha's Teachings on Social and Communal Harmony. So this is just an anthology of scriptures, or sutras as we call them, compiled by a wonderful scholar and modern monk, Bhikkhu Bodhi, kind of to bring them together into thematic areas. So in this particular story, the Buddha has met with 3 monks who've been practicing as their own little sangha out in the woods, and has heard that they've been really successful at supporting each other and kind of being this model of harmony. So I'll just read a little bit of this. On one occasion, when the Venerable Anuruddha, Nandiya, and Kimbila were living in the Gosinga Sal Tree Wood, the Blessed One went to visit them, and that refers to the Buddha. When they heard he had arrived, all 3 went to meet the Blessed One. He said to them, "I hope you are all keeping well, Anuruddha. I hope you are all comfortable and not having any trouble getting alms food." "We are keeping well, Blessed One. We are comfortable, and we are not having any trouble getting alms food." "I hope, Anuruddha," the Buddha said, "that you are all living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes." "Surely, we are living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes." But the Buddha says, how do you live like this? And Anuruddha replies, "I maintain bodily acts of loving kindness toward those venerable ones, his compatriots, both openly and privately. I maintain verbal acts of loving kindness toward them, both openly and privately. I maintain mental acts of loving kindness toward them, both openly and privately. I consider, why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what they wish to do? Then I set aside what I wish to do and do what they wish to do. We are different in body, but one in mind. That is how, Bhante, that's a kind of an honorific term. That is how we are living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes." So here we see the teaching of walking the walk. He says, not just to their face, but when they're not around, this is how I act. And that's what helps preserve our communal harmony. So as I promised, one then little detail from the Vinaya, which is again this long sort of monastic code of conduct, you could say. So I believe, and Haji can correct me, I believe to this day there is still an entry around sleeping quarters, sleeping arrangements. And that is that you don't sleep on an elevated bed. You sleep on a bed on the floor. And as I was reading through some stories from the early Sangha, there's a wonderful early disciple of the Buddha who kind of was more like our Stonehouse character from China a few hundred years later, but practiced alone, often out in the woods, was very diligent, very ascetic. And he had said, sort of towards the end of his life and of the Buddha's life, as long as the monks do not forsake their forest lodgings, the Sangha will continue. So in other words, living really humbly, not just living comfortably because at the time they would have had benefactors to invite them into more comfortable places, and they would have sheltered like out of the rainy season in particular places. So not just living in the woods outdoors all the time, but and so we see this notion of humility being core to the continuation of the Sangha, sleeping on the ground and not getting too caught up with material wealth. So maybe just to kind of think about how does this model of code of conduct for communal harmony kind of translate into our particular Sangha. we actually have some written guidelines, not hundreds, but just 6 for our lay Sangha here, which we call the Spring Wind Sangha. So we actually have temples in several other cities around North America. And so I wanted to read sort of our modern version. Okay, 6-fold harmony for Spring Wind Sangha. Harmonize with each other in conduct and actions. Harmonize with each other in speech and talk. Harmonize with each other in intention and purpose. Seek peace and happiness through the cultivation of precepts. Seek peace and happiness through diversity of understanding. Seek peace and happiness through sharing spiritual and material benefits. So we have some echoes from some of those early Sangha teachings right here, just in these 6 guidelines. And I really like that the word that we use is harmonize. Do we have any musicians with us? Oh, I didn't know you were a musician. A harmony isn't everyone playing the same note, right? It's different notes, but they concord with each other and mix like milk and water, just like in the story, right? And if anything, a harmony, I'm just a music appreciator. I don't play any instruments, but when you hear a really beautiful harmony, you can get goosebumps from it. It strikes a chord that you can really feel. And so I think that is the spirit of this harmonizing, constantly kind of trying to find the right notes to sing well together or play well together, but not always necessarily the same ones as everybody else. I can't remember how much time do I have left. I can.
A couple minutes.
A couple minutes. Okay, I'll shorten up. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this next week too, I think. So we'll have a continuation. So I think just for the rest of today, maybe we can kind of lead into a little bit of reflection and just kind of sharing out your thoughts. So thinking about that harmonizing idea, there's really something that happens when you are putting yourself in regular contact with a community of folks who are interested in spiritual learning. And I think Haju had given a talk a few years ago that said something like, in your daily life, you're kind of marinating in all these different influences, right? So if you don't like the taste, maybe you should look at the marinade. That stuck with me because I am a food person, so I remembered that teaching. And so the Sangha, being part of a spiritual community is kind of about changing up the marinade. Like, what are the ingredients that I'm absorbing, and how do I notice that having an impact on me? So I'm curious, we live in a pretty individualistic culture in this country. If I had to sit down and think, like, what communities do I see myself having responsibility to? It would be a fairly short list at first. I would have to kind of think about it because it's really easy to just think about, me and mine. Like, well, I go to work and, I have a home to take care of. And yes, I'm part of this Buddhist society as well. But perhaps just for kind of closing out for this part of the talk, and I'll have more to say next week about Sangha. I'm interested if folks see themselves as part of a community and which ones, and how is that kind of giving you some interesting or useful or instructive ingredients for your life right now. So I'll just pause there and see if there are any thoughts. And I can pass the microphone around if it doesn't squeal at us. Yeah.
So I think what I often get out of like the Sangha and meeting with other people is just sort of a reminder of what's important. I think it's easy for us to kind of get caught up in all the other everything that we're doing, and so to kind of get a little bit of like renewal and energy from other people's community, things like that is good. And the other thing that I'm kind of recognizing and sort of is sort of a change for me is kind of coming to appreciate people who have different opinions and different, you know, I want to say like life choice, like making different life choices where I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't do that, but I don't know. I think that I think maybe I grew up with a very like judgmental sort of like this is the right way to do things and this is the wrong way to do things, and it's sort of exclusionary. And so I think recognizing a variety of different people and choices and things like that, even if I don't necessarily agree with them, but sort of recognizing and acknowledging like, okay, yeah, I don't know everything, so this works for you. That's okay. Sort of thing.
I think maybe I should speak to the musician thing since that came up. I just spent some time with musical friends of mine, and we didn't play music, but I thought about the Sangha the whole time. We spent all of our time sitting and talking about, some of us haven't seen each other in decades, and some of us just a couple of years, and we've all been through something, at least in the last year, that we all needed to talk about. So I found this thing that everybody was getting along so well, and people were going to really deep places in their conversation, but they were still, like you said, in harmony with each other. And I realized the key point was, at some point it occurred to me, oh, we've all played music together before. We all play different instruments. We don't play anything similar. The differences are very important. The space between us is very important, just like the space between notes in a harmony. And the fact that each person brings this unique thing, but also everyone is listening to each other. So as soon as one person is soloing, the rest of us are silently listening to them. Like right now, thank you guys. But because they were so practiced in doing that, everyone just had their ears wide open. And I noticed kind of that's why we were able to have all of this harmony and maintain it. And I think unconsciously, musicians, at least the ones that I know, unconsciously, all these people were striving for harmony the whole time, and somewhat consciously too. But actually, not just listening to each other, but tuning themselves louder or quieter or waiting longer, thinking about timing, thinking about tone, just to sort of like create the fullness when all the things come together so that nobody was standing out and nobody was alone and sort of like that. And it was just so beautiful to watch that. And I see that here in this Sangha community too. So.
I think we have time for one more. If anyone has any other thoughts.
Uh, in thinking of community, the experience of the past year and a half with the pandemic, it's been a noticeable, I don't want to to say loss, but distance from community. And in a way, it's made me appreciate communities that much more, as things are sort of cautiously starting to open up again. And it's really helped me evaluate what I value in the groups that I used to consider my community, and what I was lacking, and what I look forward to doing in the future when things are more open. I sorely missed our school community, for my children, and the community of other parents, and the community of the Sangha, just being in person together here. So in a way, I have the pandemic to thank for that appreciation. I don't think I would have been quite as conscious of it without the absence.
Well, I think we have someone to give announcements. All right, I think it's you. Do you need the mic?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me? Gok-song, can you hear me? Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hayun, and I'm here for announcements. The first announcement is, and you can just add on if you have other things, but is that we will be having a hunger walk here. And it is a benefit for Buddhist Global Relief, an organization that funds all kinds of programs to feed hungry children. It has programs on empowering women in other countries. It just reaches globally to really put lots of important funding and important food into people's mouth. And as we know, with the pandemic has brought even more suffering and starvation. So it's really important this year. And that is going to be at our Sunday service, Sunday, October 10th. So if you come to that service, and it's going to be all of us, the families are going to be here too. So we're actually going to meet here, have a small service, and then we're going to walk around the neighborhood in our own walk. Usually we get together with other Buddhists, and we have a big walk out at Kensington Park. But this year, because of the pandemic, we're not doing that, but as a Sangha, we're going to do it. So please join us for that. And in this e-bulletin this coming week, hopefully you're all signed up for the e-bulletin, we have information about how you can give to Buddhist Global Relief, and we'll have obviously a fishbowl for it here that day. So that's one thing, 10 a.m., October 10th. Then the second thing is that we have our annual retreat, Yongmeng Junction, which is translated to leaping like a tiger while sitting. So it is actually a pretty aggressively rambunctious retreat. We are silent during it, but it is something where we actually sit for several hours a day together, and you can do it either in person here. We'll have some room, but also online. You're welcome virtually to hook up with us for that retreat. And that is
October 6th through the 10th.
October 6th through the 10th. So you will also see that in the e-bulletin. So if you're not signed up for our e-bulletin, there are clipboards back there where you can actually sign up. And I have to say, it's a wonderfully done e-bulletin.
She would know.
I'm kidding, but it gives you all the information that you need to know. We have other things going on. September 25th is a big Sangha.
Sorry, date change. It's homecoming.
Oh.
So October 2nd is our Sangha Day.
Okay, October 2nd, we have a Sangha Day where we're going to be meeting in Burns Park and having food together and having entertainment together, singing. Maybe Hassan will sing us a song and play an instrument. And if you play an instrument or can sing a song, please bring that too, because or tell a story. We would love to hear from you. But so it is October 2nd.
From 5 p.m.
From 5 p.m. until whenever. No, we don't go that late here, but you know the feeling. So, and we'll be meeting in what part of Burns Park? That great lawn area, right? Yeah, near the bathrooms. So please join us for that. Is there anything else that I haven't mentioned?
Shin Shin Ming.
Oh, yes, the Shin Shin Ming, which is a wonderful scripture, not a scripture, but it is actually a teaching from a great master from the third, he was the third patriarch of Zen. And Tangsan, why don't you talk a little bit about it? Tangsan is going to be with Gaksong and Magamok leading this. So you guys could talk about that a little bit.
Good morning, Sangha.
Do you want to? Yeah. Okay, you're all set.
I would really rather have an alumnus talk about the practice period. Are there any practice period survivors in the Sangha? We have, every semester we do a practice period that spans 8 weeks. We meet after the Sunday service for an hour, and we talk about our practice with a particular text and our practice with particular intentions and vows we've made for that practice period. This semester, our text will be the Shin Shin Ming, which is a very, very beautiful and inspiring poem from the 6th century. So it's old, it's very beautiful. It will talk right to you. We have done practice period with this poem before, and some of the practitioners said that it really changed their lives and their practice. So if you would like to deepen your practice in company of Sangha, please consider the practice period. You can ask questions afterwards. You can sign up on the table there. And Gaksang and Magamok, would you stand up there in the back? The 3 of us will be involved in leading it in one form or another. So facilitating it, really, making space for you all to talk about your practice. It's a beautiful thing. Please think about it.
And one last thing, just thank you so much for your kind donations to our temple. Do I need that? No. Oh, refuge recovery. Oh, refuge recovery. Yes. So much going on. After the service each Sunday here, there is a refuge recovery program. And is there anyone here who'd like to speak toward it? Or Mike, do you want to say something?
Recovery Dharma is in the Buddha Hall. Every week I've been told I'd say it the wrong way. The Buddha Hall. And it starts after services this morning at noon, and it runs 1 hour, and it's been for the last 6 or 8 weeks a hybrid. So we're online and in person.
Thank you, Mike. All right, so if you're interested in that, please join Recovery Dharma, folks. I just was saying that your contributions have kept this temple alive for the past 1.5 years and vibrant and here for all of us. So just humble appreciation for your financial support.
Thank you. So just to close out, it's our tradition to end with the 4 great vows. So please repeat after me. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
And then please stand. We'll just end with 3 vows. Oh, to self. Yeah. Haju was also reminding me that if we have a couple of volunteers who can help put away all of our equipment, because we set this up and then break it down after each Sunday service, if you could just stay afterwards, and that would be greatly appreciated. I'm just going to put my shoes on and we can go down the center aisle so I can say hello to you at the end.